All right, let's dive right into this explainer based on some really eye-opening insights from Brian Anderson at Principled Community Association Management. Today we're unpacking the hidden realities of running a smaller community association. You know, it's a topic that honestly doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves, but as we'll see, the stakes are incredibly high. We're going to look specifically at exactly what happens when small communities settle for less than ideal management structures.
Whenever boards sit down to evaluate their management options, they almost always start with this exact question. You can probably picture the board meeting right now, right? Everyone's looking at a spreadsheet entirely hyper-focused on the monthly price tag. And hey, it makes total sense. It's completely natural to want to protect the community's budget. But getting tunnel vision on this single number often blinds a board to a much, much larger reality.
Because to truly understand your community's financial health, we actually need to flip the script entirely and ask a much more critical question. What is poor management actually costing us right now? That's the paradigm shift we're exploring today. We're moving away from just looking at what you pay and shining a light on what you are currently losing.
So, let's jump right into Section 1, the price versus cost illusion. Let's shatter a very common misconception right out of the gate. This comparison brilliantly hits the nail on the head. Price is literally just what you pay on a monthly invoice. It's a fixed, predictable, surface-level number. But cost? Cost is what you lose when things aren't handled correctly. It represents these compounding, snowballing losses a community suffers when operations just lack basic structure. And in smaller communities especially, these invisible losses add up remarkably fast.
So, how do these losses actually manifest? That brings us to Section 2, 6 hidden management costs.
There are exactly 6 distinct, honestly pretty painful costs lurking right beneath the surface of a seemingly cheap management contract. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are very real, tangible ways your resources are bleeding out.
First up is deferred maintenance. When maintenance isn't planned proactively, a totally manageable expense rapidly inflates into a massive replacement cost. Think about it. A tiny roof leak or a small drainage issue might seem like something you can easily put off to save a few bucks this quarter. But water always wins. Without oversight, that minor issue turns into major structural damage tomorrow. You've essentially traded a small, predictable expense for an absolute crisis.
Moving on to the second hidden cost, inefficient vendor decisions. Without solid processes in place, you inevitably run into frustrating rework, massive delays, and wildly inflated expenses. If bids aren't properly compared, you overpay. If the scope of work isn't crystal clear, vendors do the wrong job, and you end up paying twice. And when nobody holds the vendors accountable, projects just drag on forever. These are huge drains on the budget that you'll never see on a management invoice.
Then we have cost number 3, financial blind spots. Even if you technically have a budget, making decisions without total financial clarity creates this dangerous instability. Expenses are consistently underestimated, and worse, reserve accounts go underfunded. So when a big repair finally hits, the cash just isn't there, and the board has to drop an emergency special assessment that completely blindsides the residents.
Cost 4 is one we see all the time: board burnout. Poor management unfairly dumps the entire operational burden right onto the volunteers. Instead of actually leading, board members are spending their weekends chasing unreliable vendors and mediating petty disputes. It literally turns volunteering into an exhausting, unpaid second job. And what happens? Your best board members just quit. Which leads straight to cost number 5, increased conflict. Now, it's really important to get this. Rising conflict usually isn't because your neighbors are inherently difficult people. It's almost always a direct symptom of weak, inconsistent systems. When residents feel rules are applied unfairly or communication is just broken, trust evaporates. That toxic atmosphere, that is a direct, heavy cost of poor management. And that brings us to our 6th cost, perfectly captured by this idea: perception influences value. This is the ultimate property value impact, and it's the cost most communities totally miss until it's too late. When prospective buyers drive through and see peeling paint or unkempt landscaping, or if they see disorganized financials, they lower their offers. Poor management literally sinks your community's property values. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at Section 3, the compounding snowball effect. Because these 6 problems don't just sit in isolation.
They violently feed off each other. What starts as a tiny inefficiency snowballs into a systemic crisis. Look at this timeline. Month 1, you delay a repair to save money. By month 6, bad vendor choices mean the issue is worse and costs more. By year 1, those extra costs have eaten your budget, creating financial gaps. And by year 3, total crisis mode.
The board is burned out and systemic tension is everywhere. The longer you wait to fix the structure, the harder it is to pull out of the nosedive. But luckily, there is an antidote. Let's check out Section 4, What Good Management Prevents. Strong management doesn't just check off a to-do list. It actively prevents that snowball effect by installing these 5 critical pillars. It shifts you from reactive to proactive maintenance. It gives you clear financial visibility, structured vendor processes, and consistent communication. But mostly, it finally takes that crushing burden off the board's shoulders. So, the big takeaway here is beautifully simple. The ultimate product of effective management isn't just a nicely paved road or a balanced ledger. It's clarity, absolute clarity. It replaces the chaos of uncertainty with peace of mind. As we wrap up this explainer, we arrive at Section 5, Reframing Your Board's Decision.
The insights we've covered today demand a total perspective change. Instead of agonizing over what management costs, you absolutely have to ask, what is the cost of continuing without the right structure? The real existential risk to your community isn't spending money on a management structure, it's losing control over how your community operates.
So, if your board is dealing with recurring issues, budget chaos, or total burnout, don't ignore it. Treat those as glaring warning signals. You can actually take 2 structural steps right now. Based on our source material, download the free Small HOA Board Toolkit or schedule a quick HOA strategy call with Principled Cam. It's time to look past just the monthly invoice. I'll leave you with this to chew on for your next board meeting. Are you merely surviving your community's problems day by day, or are you actually building a structure designed to thrive?